Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to MCJ Report number 192. I hope that everybody's had a lovely weekend, and I hope that you're ready for a new week ahead of you. I'd like to welcome everybody to the broadcast. I see a whole bunch of my regular viewers there, and I see some people who are indeed tuned in for the first time. So no matter where you are in Australia or from around the world, I welcome you to MCJ Report. And if it's your first time, I'm your host, Morgan Charles Jonas. So why don't you go ahead and put in the chat where you are tuned in from. Of course, I love getting to know each and every one of you, and I really do appreciate you all being here tonight. Of course, you could be doing anything else on your Sunday evening, but you are choosing to spend it with me, and let me tell you that I certainly do indeed appreciate it. So a whole bunch of regulars there. There's Sharon there, there's Marty, there's DW from the United States, Lunabel, how you going? Gaza. It is so nice to see all of you. There's Awa, Purple, of course, from Queensland. I hope that the connection is strong and that we're doing all right. So we've got a few things on the agenda for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Now, first of all, unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, Matt Lawson will not be joining us. That's right. Just a little thing that could not be avoided. So we definitely support Matt. Matt's starting a podcast. We're going to have a chat about that. And without any doubt, we'll have him on the show another time. Now, of course, when you live in the state of Victoria, there's no shortage of scandals when we have this government in place, the Daniel Andrews Labor government. But the majority of scandals, I'd say, are actually coming from the so-called opposition party here in Victoria, ladies and gentlemen, under the so-called leadership of a man by the name of John Pesutto. That's right, we've seen one act after another, this particular individual seeking to actually sabotage his own political party, and I'd certainly describe it that way. Now, John Pesutto, he takes after Daniel Andrews. That is the only conclusion that I can come to, given the remarks and the behaviour of which he has acted since assuming the position of leader. And ladies and gentlemen, when I use the term leader, I really am using inverted commas when I see John Pesutto. He doesn't resemble a leader to me. He resembles a schoolyard bully that is seeking to play politics in order to advance his brand of politics, which I dare say is the brand of the left wing. That's right. It's very hard to distinguish someone like John Pesutto from other typical leftists. So, of course, we've seen over the past few weeks, the past month, John Pesutto throwing one of his own under the bus, Moira Deeming, that's right, after she spoke at a rally in defense of women's and children's rights. Now, John made many defamatory remarks about Moira, if you remember, ladies and gentlemen. He, in the same breath, threw Moira in with neo-Nazis. That's right. He can't say that he didn't. He absolutely did. The conflation that he used in his language strongly suggested that Moira was indeed associated with these people. Of course, there's no proof of that. And of course, that is an accusation that Moira has denied. But it is indeed the words of John Pesutto that has, without any shadow of a doubt, damaged the reputation of Moira Deeming. She didn't do anything to deserve this. She was simply speaking up for a very important cause, and it's a cause that I know that many of you at home strongly support, which is shielding our children and protecting women. Now, John has run off in the other direction with the support of Georgie Crozier and David Southwick, who's the member for Caulfield, and we remember from not all that long ago, John moving that motion seeking to expel Moira. Now, that didn't quite work out, so there was a bit of negotiation. Moira agreed, I suppose, to be suspended for 9 months, but has recently come back and expressed intent to spearhead legal action against John, I presume for defamation, and which is fair enough, because John Pesutto's words, most definitely I'll describe, were an assassination attempt on Moira Deeming, likening her to Nazis. And Moira has reported lots of hate, including but not limited to online, in public, and being stalked at her home. And I dare say the result of this hate can be attributed to the words directed at her and about her by John Pesutto. So the talk of legal action has created a real hornet's nest in the Liberal Party, and we've seen several members, elected members of the Liberal Party, now expressing intent to move yet again another motion to expel Moira Deeming with the full support of John Pesutto. And it's pretty interesting to see John in this instance, ladies and gentlemen. He's kind of acting like, well, it wasn't my idea to reintroduce this new motion that will be put forward, but since it's happening, why not? I will go and support it. That is the impression that he's trying to give the public, but of course he's a very bad actor. We know that it's little John behind the scenes. That's right, this little lookalike version of Mussolini that's pulling the strings, whispering in the ears of his fellow MPs, such as those to the likes of Wayne Farnham from Narracan, newly elected MP that was handed the position in Parliament on a silver plate, now backing this move to get rid of Moira. And we ask ourselves, well, where is this all heading? Where's it all heading? According to John Pesutto, it's all about progression. That's right. It's all about reform. It's all about reforming the Liberal Party to supposedly become more effective. Yet, I would call it doubling down. What we see from the Victorian Liberal Party is, without any shadow of a doubt, a larger attempt year in, year out to be more like the Labor Party. I don't see that's how that's going to win anyone across to the Victorian Liberals. At the end of the day, the Victorian Liberals are also referred to the, quote, opposition party. But we need to ask ourselves the question, what exactly are the Victorian Liberals opposing? Are they opposing gender-neutral bathrooms? Are they opposing drag queen story time for kids? Are they opposing net zero? No, they're not. They're backing all of these topics of which I just mentioned. The Victorian Liberal Party leadership resembles, I was about to say Labor light, but let's just say they resemble Labor. I think that John Pesutto has probably been watching many hours of Daniel Andrews on a daily basis in order to try and mirror the man as much as possible. He's not his own man. He's a well-known hard leftist, and he is seeking to crush whatever real conservatives are left in the Liberal Party. And from what I hear, he's a brute and a bully. Just look at the way he's treated Moira Deeming. But now, of course, we see an accusation by John accusing Upper House MP Renee Heath of leaking the minutes from that particular party room meeting to Peter Credlin. Peter, of course, denying those accusations, but John just throwing his weight around, throwing out accusations without having any evidence to back up his own words, right? Just like in the beginning when John accused Moira and the organizer of that women's rights protest of having effectively neo-Nazi links. No evidence, just a bogus Wikipedia page which really demonstrated the extent of the investigative capabilities of the Victorian Liberal leadership. And now we just see a complete mess. That's right, complete fracturing of the Victorian Liberal Party, and I don't think they can survive it. Moira Deeming and a few others in the Liberal Party are the best thing to happen to the Victorian Liberals in years, and John Pesutto is intent on stamping it out. That's right, Little John, but I don't think he's going to get very far. I don't think the public appreciates the mission that this man is on. Now, John made a few remarks about his intentions for the Victorian Liberals. I've got a little clip here. I'm going to play it for you right now.
I can already feel that there is a growing sense of unity that we need to reform. I'm leading that reform project. It will take some time. So I'm asking Victorians to bear with me as a new leader as I bed down those reforms. Reform isn't easy. And often when you're reforming, there can often be a small group, in this case there is a small group, determined to thwart that process. But let me make it clear, as a new leader, I intend to reform the Liberal Party with my colleagues, and I know overwhelmingly they support me in that.
So it's all about reform, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. It's all about reforming the Liberal Party so they can be better. Reforming the Liberal Party by becoming more and more like the Labor Party. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I'll tell you what does make sense. What does make sense is the fact that here in Victoria, we require real opposition to the Daniel Andrews Labor government. We require a fighting force to fight back against what can only be described as the forces of evil that have had a stranglehold on Victorian policymaking for far too long. Now, I hate to break it to you, but that opposition is not the Victorian Liberal Party. The Victorian Liberal Party management has no backbone, no guts. They're unfit to serve in opposition, which is why I'm still around, which is why the Freedom Party Management Committee is still around, which is why former Freedom Party candidates are still around, now stepping up into positions such as regional managers and district coordinators. So you might be thinking at home, well, what can I do? What can I do to oppose the evil and unfit Daniel Andrews Labor government, considering that there is no opposition in Victoria because John Pesutto and his colleagues up there, they're not leaders and they're not opposing anything. In fact, they're just throwing fuel on the fire, like, yeah, let's burn Victoria a little bit quicker. Well, the answer to what you do, ladies and gentlemen, really, really simple. You go to your web browser, you type in www.freedomparty.net.au, you become a member. That's right, become a member of Freedom Party of Victoria, freedomparty.net.au. Join the battle. We have events coming up left, right and centre. So if you love our state, if you disagree with the trajectory of the Daniel Andrews Labor government, if you disagree with what our councillors are doing at a local government level, then join a party that is fighting back, and join a party that is active and will continue to be active even when there's no elections. That's right. The typical political party, whether it's a minor party or a major party, once an election has finished, you know what they do? They round up, well, no, they don't round up anyone. I was going to say they round up their candidates and chuck them out. No, they just ignore their candidates. Once their former candidates have been not elected, the former candidates and the volunteers basically just get kicked in the gutter. Thanks for all your help. Now piss off and we'll give you a call come next election cycle. We don't do that at Freedom Party Victoria. We keep our members engaged. We speak to our members. We meet with our members. We convey to our members that it is them that are the driving force for the change that we need in our state and in our country. Okay? What we need to achieve, we know cannot be achieved by a singular person, not one member of parliament, not one leader of a political party, rather the collective efforts of many people, many people, thousands of people whose ships are sailing in the same direction. That's what we're doing, and you can be involved. The train has not left the station yet. If you're watching from Victoria, there is a reason why you're still in Victoria and why you haven't run off to another state or another country with your tail between your legs. Now, I'm going to presume that the reason why you're still here is because you love this state, and it is a beautiful state, and you believe in your heart that you should not have to leave your home for anyone or anything. If I'm right about my presumption, then the only logical course of action for you is to get involved with me, stand alongside myself and the team, and let's go out there and let's embrace the battle and get it done together. What I'd like to convey to everybody watching is that 550,000 Victorians in the state election voted for a minor conservative, libertarian and or freedom party. That's a lot. Okay. Now, of course, there was lots of dust in the air from COVID. That dust is settling, and I can tell you that we are sharpening our swords, we're realigning, and we have the numbers in Victoria to make monumental change. Now, of course, Rome wasn't built in a day. It required lots of hands, lots of coordination, lots of strategic alliances, which is exactly what we're working on right now. So do not be dismayed. Anything worth having in this world is worth sacrificing for. It's worth fighting for. And nothing happens overnight. Okay, if you're looking for a get-rich-quick scheme, I don't have one here. If you're looking for a get-freedom-quick scheme, I don't have that either. All I have is a long-term strategy, but long-term thinking is exactly what we need in this country. So once again, head on over to freedomparty.net.au, jump on board, receive the emails, be informed of when the next meeting is. I might be there, and together we will do what we need to do. Alrighty, so let me just show you a little document right here, ladies and gentlemen. We released a press release, a media release, in relation to the move that the Liberals have made, this second move to expel Moira Deeming. So I'm going to read it to you in just a second. Let me just open it up. 1 second. Alrighty, so this is coming from Freedom Party Victoria for immediate release. I'm just going to read to you. Contact is myself in this instance. My email address is morgan@freedomparty.net.au. If anyone out there in the world of the internet or social media wants to get in touch with me regarding these statements, then go right ahead. Freedom Party Victoria condemns the 5 members of the Liberal Party who are demanding the expulsion of Moira Deeming. Melbourne, Victoria. As biological women are facing an onslaught of woke ideology, one woman is speaking up and becoming the face and voice of reason, and that is Moira Deeming. The 5 MPs who have requested Moira Deeming's expulsion from the Liberal Party have aligned themselves to an ideology that violates the very basis of their own political party's values. Victorians are witnessing the demise of not just the Liberal Party, but the moral integrity of society. When the definition of woman can no longer be clear and concise because of an extreme leftist dogma, someone must speak the truth. That voice in Parliament has become more redeeming. Morgan C. Jonas, yes, it feels weird to read about myself in third person, but we're just going to move on from that. Leader of the Freedom Party of Victoria states that the priority of politicians should be to uphold the safety and protection of women and girls from threats and danger experienced by them daily from biological men who intend to harm them. If only John Pesutto would agree with this very, very basic and fundamental statement. He goes on to say here, quote, any person who speaks up to share their personal experiences, knowledge, and concerns of the daily reality of the female sex should be respected and heard, not punished and silenced. The actions being requested by James Newbury, member for Brighton, Matthew Guy, member for Bulleen, Sydney McLeish, member for Ilden, Roma Britnell, member for Southwest Coast, and Wayne Farnham, that's right, Wayne Farnham. Can't believe you're doing this. Unbelievable. We had the supplementary election. What are you doing, Wayne? New to Parliament. I don't know what it is. Member for Narrackan. They represent an archaic act of betrayal. That's right. They've betrayed their fellow colleague in pursuit of what? What has John offered you? That's the question. Goes on to say, Mr. Jonas has expressed the Freedom Party's unequivocal support for Moira Deeming and the other MPs who are standing by her side. Renee Heath, Bev MacArthur, Ryan Smith, and has called on the Liberal Party leadership to uphold the freedom of speech and thought that their party is founded upon, and rejected the request from the 5 Liberal MPs who have sought to expel Moira Deeming and punish those who support her. And that's it. So there you go, Freedom Party of Victoria. These are the types of stands that you can expect us to be making regularly. Ladies and gentlemen, we're super active. The engine room is ticking over, standing up for what's right, and we will be a thorn in the side of anyone in power that seeks to inflict harm upon the Victorian population. And I think that's pretty good. So if you agree with that statement, if you like what you're hearing, then go ahead and let me know in the comments. Alrighty, so I'm going to smash through some news articles, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, no, before I do, I've got a couple of bits and pieces I wanted to make you aware of. Alrighty, so first of all, did you know that the Mornington Shire Council is hosting a drag event in Dramana on the 27th and 28th of May, and they are promoting this as a free event for children aged between 10 and 17 years old. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. These events are becoming prolific all over Victoria. And of course, we see these events are also getting shut down in record numbers simply because Victorians are voicing their opinions. That's right. Victorians overwhelmingly do not want for there to be drag events for children and are using their democratic right to show opposition. And it is working. So my advice is really simple, ladies and gentlemen. Whenever there is a situation where any level of government, be it local, state, or federal, is doing the wrong thing by children, the right thing always to do is show up and protest. That's right. Do not back down. Do not relent. We have an obligation to protect the innocence of our children in this country. Now, another thing I wanted to point out is do not ever allow fear to get in the way of protesting and standing up for what's right. Yes, I know sometimes you hear that there's going to be counter-protesters or nasty people from the socialist left showing up. Let me tell you something. The last thing anyone should ever do is allow fear to dictate their actions when standing up for a cause that is noble, when standing up for a cause that is designed to protect those who are incapable of protecting themselves. So let this be a reminder once again, wherever there is injustice against those who are vulnerable, it is the responsibility of the good people of our country and our state to be there, standing up, protesting, to raise our voices the loudest, to bring megaphones, to bring signs, to create a situation so overwhelmingly strong that the organisation at hand, be it public or private, is left with no other choice but to shut down their intended event. So I'd like to praise all the Victorians that have been out protesting. Your actions and your efforts have been highly successful, and my advice is keep doing what you're doing. Do not relent, do not back down, and always keep fighting. All right, what else do we have here? All right, great news. Look at this. Freedom Party of Victoria. This is going out to those who happen to live in the western suburbs of the great city of Melbourne. That's right, we got a Western Metro branch of the Freedom Party meeting, moving forward with 2 special guests. That's right, not 1 but 2 special guests. Our very own Greg Cheeseman and Victoria's own Damien Richardson, of whom many of you know and love. This is taking place on Monday, the 15th of May, 2023, 7 p.m. till 9:30 p.m. at the Water Gardens Hotel Sports Bar in Taylors Lakes. Now, I will be posting about this. Make sure that you follow the social media of Freedom Party of Victoria. And if you happen to live out that way, I highly recommend that you get involved. Whether you're only giving an hour a month, it doesn't matter. It will only be a collective effort that gets our state back to where it needs to be. So keep your eyes on that, ladies and gentlemen. All right, now, let's smash through some headlines, shall we? All right, Western Australia, never before witnessed. WA auditor rips government over nearly $600 million RAT spend, the rapid antigen tests. Now, here's the problem when it comes to government. Governments spend other people's money. There's no accountability. Unlike the private sector, there's no KPIs. There's no real audits. I mean, we've got an auditor in this case, obviously in WA, but all the results is clearly a headline that will come and go within 24 hours. In the private sector, you'd look at people going to jail, getting fired, companies collapsing. But in government, having unlimited access to the public purse, they can get away with this sort of stuff. Now, it was indeed the massive spend on COVID tests early in the piece back in 2020 that really prompted me to look into the whole COVID-19 situation. I observed the massive government spend on initially not RAT tests, but PCR tests. And my initial question was, and this applies to any time the government seeks to import large amounts of products from another country as well. Let's look into the supply chain here. Who's putting the deal together? Which manufacturer has been awarded the contract? Who's making commission? Which are the bureaucracies that have been entrusted to manage such a large acquisition of products for the Australian public? And, well, in the case of the PCR tests, and I would be highly skeptical of the integrity of the RAT contract as well. It turned out that it was indeed the world's largest biotech company over in China, BGI Group, that had won the first initial contracts for Australia's PCR test, a company that had some very serious human rights allegations. And of course, it was the former disgraced health minister, Greg Hunt, that helped facilitate that deal, along with Andrew Twiggy Forrest, with the help of the Victorian Chinese Consul General. And we know that there was scandal written all over that deal. So no one should really be surprised by these types of stories. If there's anything that we know about the government, there's literally no accountability. They will keep spending our money because their jobs are not affected. So what I'd love to see introduced in government here in Australia is basically a KPI system. There needs to be checks and balances, and government departments that underperform, especially when it comes to the mismanagement of our money, there needs to be mechanisms in place for these bureaucrats, these public servants and departments to be completely dissolved. And you'd have to think that in Australia, we could slash so much of the public service and we either wouldn't notice a difference in our country or would notice a positive difference. And this is at the forefront of the agenda of Freedom Party of Victoria. And I've expressed this in many speeches, of course. We do not see the need for endless layers of bureaucracy in our country whereby there is no accountability. And this article here is indicative of that fact. All right, moving along here, maybe some of you saw this, mobile phone and seatbelt detection cameras. So rolling out in Victoria, right, it's not as if there's enough surveillance out there already. Special cameras to detect if you are using your mobile phone whilst driving. That's right. So ladies and gentlemen, very soon you will not be able to sneeze without getting recorded on a surveillance camera and fined. We also see, of course, the proposed implementation of cameras surrounding the CBD for the potential of imposing a CBD travel tax during the day. So the government wants to know when and where and how often you enter the CBD and to tax you what in a rate that they think would be appropriate. And I think this initiative here is really more so about revenue raising rather than protecting people's safety. And we need to remember where most car accidents happen, which is, of course, intersections. So any disproportionate positioning of cameras outside of intersections can really be attributed to an attempt to revenue raise by the government. You know, it's just kind of like 1 + 1 = 2. It's not really that hard. It's not rocket science. It's just how it is. Let's see. No, I didn't want to read that now. I'll read that in a bit. All right, this is interesting here. President Putin compares Russian and Western debt. Russia has a healthy level of state debt and inflation, according to the president. So I'm just going to read to you some stats here. As of March, inflation is 3.5% in Russia, 7.4% in Germany. The European areas as a whole recorded 6.9%. Inflation in France and the US amounted to 5.7% and 5% respectively. And Australia is not all that much different. So this is just Putin, I suppose, striking back. Of course, Russia has faced an avalanche of sanctions since the conflict in Ukraine. These sanctions have been designed effectively to attack the Russian economy, yet the president has come out swinging, defending Russia's economic position by defending both the rate of inflation and debt versus GDP. It's also important to point out that the customers that Russia has lost in terms of the exportation of their resources, the Ministry of Commerce has been able to find other buyers around the world that have decided not to take a hardline stance against Russia, that have made up the shortfall from other countries. And the detriment, I think, has really been suffered by many of the European countries that have refused to purchase Russian resources and are now struggling with winters and affordable energy. So I don't exactly know where this is heading. It seems like Russia is okay and is hanging in there. You've probably got your own thoughts. Go ahead and put it in the comments. All right, Viktor Orban, the Hungarian Prime Minister, has endorsed Trump for a White House return. Now, Viktor Orban has made headlines throughout the years. Despite being a member of the European Union, Hungary has very much opposed lots of the policies of the European Union, including but not limited to many of the sort of gender quotas that the European Union has proposed, the net zero quotas, and also the immigration quotas. So unlike a lot of the other European countries, Hungary hasn't had those particular issues. Of course, we saw a wave of terrorist attacks back when ISIS was prominent. Hungary avoided all of those. And when Trump was first announced for his bid for presidency, it was Viktor Orban who adopted the wall principle. That's right, and proposed his own plan to build a wall around Hungary in similar Trump fashion. So he's gone on to say here, that is the Prime Minister of Hungary, he said if the former president were back in office, there would be no war afflicting Europe. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has endorsed former US President Donald Trump's re-election bid, urging Trump to come back and resolve the conflict in Ukraine. Orban, a fierce critic of globalism and liberalism, also backed Trump's previous presidential campaign. So there's a few out there, ladies and gentlemen. Also, the president of El Salvador has been singing a very similar tune. So not all presidents, not all state and country leaders around the world are singing the tune of the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. So there is certainly hope, and when we see those in power opposing globalism, I think that it should give us hope. And we have some here in Australia, not enough, but we think about people to the likes of Gerard Rennick, Alex Antic, Malcolm Roberts, and so forth. Now, this is a pretty interesting article right here. Imagine this was Australia. Imagine there would be a complete meltdown. I'm just going to read this to you, very matter of fact. I'm not really going to comment on this. I'm just going to read it and you can put your thoughts in the comment. Turkish opposition is gay, and that's coming from President Erdogan, who is the president of Turkey. Ahead of a crucial election this month, the incumbent president argued that only his party can protect family values. It goes on to say, Turkish President Erdogan has accused his political rival Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, I probably said that wrong, but you'll have to excuse me, of being, quote, LGBT ahead of next week's elections. Erdogan's government views LGBT ideology as a, quote, American and European religion, alien to Turkish morals. Goes on to say, we know that Mr. Kemal is an LGBT person, Erdogan told a rally in the city of Giresun on Thursday. CHP is LGBT, he continued, listing off the political factions in the six-party National Alliance bloc. As the People's Alliance, we are against this, he declared, referring to his own political bloc. Family is sacred to us. A strong family means a strong nation. No matter what they do, God is enough for us. Not going to comment, just going to leave it there, and I'm going to move on to the next clip here. All right, now this is pretty concerning, and I've spoken about this, but I want to raise alarm bells because we see this, of course, happening right here in Australia. So look at this. Record number of children taking antidepressants. Now, I've got a big problem with the headline. The headline should read, record number of doctors prescribing children with prescribed antidepressant drugs, or record number of pharmaceutical companies directing the sale of antidepressant drugs at children. That would be a more honest headline. But it is indeed true, ladies and gentlemen, all throughout the world, we see the prescription antidepressant drug business for children turning into a multi-billion-dollar industry. And of course, the people who are benefiting are, of course, the shareholders of the big pharmaceutical corporations. Now, we know that here in Victoria, children can actually have a secret relationship with a doctor in their schools without their parents' knowledge or consent. The program in Victoria is called Doctors in Schools. Coupled with the, quote, mature minor policy in Victoria, has created a culture whereby children can have discussions with doctors and can be prescribed with prescription drugs that include but are not limited to, well, as it says here, antidepressants, birth control, and of course, children can be administered with vaccines. But getting back to this topic right here of children taking record amounts of antidepressants, and if you ask me, they don't need antidepressants. They need to get outside, they need to play sport, they need to be children. And let me say that infecting children's minds with woke ideology is not going to help to cure their depression. Let me just smash out some headlines here that are related. This teen was prescribed 10 psychiatric drugs. She's not alone. GPs giving antidepressants to children against guidelines. Why might they be doing that? Could there possibly be a financial incentive? I don't know, I'm just asking the question. Don't shoot the messenger. Nobody's talking about the record high number of Americans on psychiatric drugs, including infants. Why would there ever be a scenario for an infant to be on a psychiatric drug? More than 1 million prescriptions for antidepressants now written for teens in England each year, up by a quarter since 2016 amid mental health crisis after lockdowns. Yes, lockdowns caused mental health problems for children and adults, of course, but children are more important than adults. So we're talking about kids here. But the solution isn't to just shove drugs their way, is it, ladies and gentlemen? Who does that serve? Once again, the shareholders of the big pharmaceutical corporations. The solution is not to medicate these children, in my very firm opinion. We have natural medicine. We have phenomenal naturopaths. Sport is a great cure for depression. Get out there, get active. And what we see is a very predatory and opportunistic big pharmaceutical industry that is seeking to capitalize off, of course we saw the capitalization off the sale of the COVID injections, and now the aftermath of depression, so flogging another range of products, once again at the most vulnerable people in our society, which are, of course, children. What else do we have here? Generations sedated. Why record numbers of children are on antidepressants. Number of young children prescribed antidepressants has risen by 41% since 2015. New TGA review as number of children prescribed antidepressants doubles in 10 years. So, if you're a parent at home, please make sure that you are aware of what's happening with your child in school. Be aware that in Victoria, children can have secret relationships with doctors that may not have your child's best interest at heart. That's got to be scary as a parent. That's got to be reason and motivation to sit down and talk with your kids. The last thing you want is some stranger who could be motivated by, who knows, prescribing your child with drugs that your child should never have his or her hands on in the first place. So parents, please, especially in Victoria, be aware. Alrighty, now, where are we, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to get on to the next part of the show. Before I do, just going to take a little break to get a glass of water. So if you need to get up and get something from the fridge or go to the restroom, feel free to do that now. I'll be back in around 2 minutes. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you very much for bearing with me. Alrighty, so where are we? Alright, Monash Council cancels drag event for kids. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, what this is the result of people power. That's right, it was you, ladies and gentlemen, the good people of Victoria that said, no, we don't approve of these drag queen story time sessions for children, so we are going to protest. Protest you did, and victory you achieved. Now, the Premier of Victoria, he had a few words to share towards the good people who protested these events. I'm going to play the clip for you right now. Take a look.
Speaker, I'm saddened to have to rise to make a statement to the House in relation to quite shameful conduct out at the City of Monash last week, and decisions that, very sadly, the CEO and the Mayor of that council have had to make in relation to cancelling a number of events that are about celebrating diversity, events that are about sending a message to often some of the most vulnerable people in our Victorian community, that they are loved, they are respected, they are safe, and they are supported by their government and their community. Now, I make this statement not just as the Premier of a state where equality is not negotiable. I also make this statement as a long-time ratepayer in the City of Monash. I don't know how many of these protesters, with not an exercise of free speech but an exercise in hate speech, violence, bigotry, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, the list goes on, ugly scenes on any measure, including, can I say, death threats against council officers and councillors. It is a disgrace. It's shameful. And my message to those people is very clearly, if you want to behave like the worst elements of the Floridian Republican Party, well, get to Florida. Head over there, where your hateful views might be worth something. They're worth nothing here. We won't stand for this sort of ugly behaviour. It's appalling. And I again make the point, it's not about free speech. This is hate speech, plain and simple. Plain and simple. It is wrong. It is out of step with the values of fair-minded, decent mainstream Victorians. It is on the fringe. But enough about those people. Let's send the clearest message, Speaker, that equality is not negotiable, and despite the carry-on and the shameful behaviour of a small few, this government and this community remains committed to every single Victorian, no matter who they are or who they love.
All right, so there's a fair bit to unpack there in the Premier's unhinged rant. First of all, Daniel Andrews could never hold a candle to the great Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, and Ron really is a shining example of what a true state leader should be in terms of the extent to which Ron DeSantis has defended the freedoms of Floridians. So Daniel Andrews just randomly unleashing his grievances upon the good people there in the state of Florida, which I thought was pretty interesting. But of course, as a state premier, Daniel Andrews is making a massive mistake. Instead of seeking to understand why people are protesting against these drag story times for kids, which is pretty self-explanatory, he is simply going ahead and attacking the people of this state, knowing that he will never get their votes anyway, and that he is very well secured in the seat of Mulgrave. But for every slur and every insult that comes out of the mouth of Daniel Andrews, we know for a fact that he's avoiding the real issue at hand. The people who protested against these transgender story time sessions for children's are not there protesting because they have a problem with gay people. They're not there protesting because they have a problem with transgender people. They're not even there protesting because they have a problem with drag queens. The very issue that we Victorians have, what we take exception to, is the notion of drag queens conducting performances in front of children. It's really simple as that. It's got nothing to do with being opposed to drag queens and everything to do with protecting the innocence of children. So think about it very deeply, ladies and gentlemen. We, the general public, are standing up for the rights of children. We are standing up to defend the innocence of children. The Premier of Victoria is intentionally categorising us as hateful, bigoted people. Now, why would he be doing that? Why would Daniel Andrews seek to demonise members of the Victorian public who are standing up for the innocence of children? Why would anyone have a problem with somebody who is standing up to defend the innocence of children? That's a question that I'd like you to think about deeply and put in the comments what your answer is. But let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. The gaslighting of Daniel Andrews, it's running out. It's not going to work forever. The man can't show his face in public. I know that when he's on the floor of Parliament, he looks very strong, very intimidating. You've got little David Southwick there, the member for Caulfield, just sitting there, not opposing him. And that's because on the floor of Parliament, Daniel Andrews is in his domain. That's his house. He feels entitled to abuse and make derogatory remarks about the Victorian public. But let me tell you something from my own personal experience. When I confronted the Premier Daniel Andrews on the streets of Frankston, that big, tall, tough guy that you see in Parliament, he was nowhere to be found. When I walked up to him, his legs did the chicken dance. That's right. He was trembling. He was scared. And that's because Daniel Andrews is not a strong character. He will gaslight. He will manipulate. He will speak abusive words against the public. He'll never take ownership. He appears to exhibit strength when he's in his natural domain, when he's in his pack. But individually, he is one of the weakest, most spineless cowards that you could ever find in your entire life. That's right. The man has red blood, just like anyone else. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just a matter of time before his reign as Premier will be over, and it will indeed be over for good. Now, it's important to point out that when Daniel Andrews uses these horrible words to describe certain members of the Victorian public, such as hateful, bigoted, intolerant, etc., extreme. What he's actually doing, this is really deep psychological stuff. He's describing himself. That's right. All the nasty, hateful, oppressive elements of this man's personality comes out when he abuses members of the public, people who do not have anywhere near the power of Daniel Andrews. Daniel Andrews, whether we like to admit it or not, he's a powerful guy. He's got the parliament wrapped around his finger. Only an abuser in such a powerful position would strike downwards at people of the public, people of whom he knows on a personal level pose no threat to him. Well, where I think he's got this wrong is that the real power in this country, unbeknownst to Daniel Andrews, it doesn't lay in the police, nor the judiciary, nor the parliament. It lays within the hands of we, the Australian people. And I know for a fact that there are millions of us in this country, and when it's our time to strike, then it's going to be a moment of glory for millions of Australians and those who seek to inflict harm and evil, such as murderous individuals like Daniel Andrews. And that's right, I will categorize him as murderous, a human rights abuser, and somebody that I know is guilty of crimes against humanity, as demonstrated by the past few years. How many people took their lives because of this man's policies? How many livelihoods were destroyed? How many people's human rights were abused? I am justified to label him as such. Just remember, folks, that God reigns supreme, good defeats evil, and every dog has his day. So we have so much to look forward to. So Daniel Andrews wants to go on this unhinged rant on the floor of Parliament. Let him. Let him. He's not going to be laughing forever. And when he stops laughing, you, me, and many others, we're going to be there. And it's going to be a moment of utter victory. And I hope that you're on board, because I'm down for the challenge and I'm not going anywhere. I love Victoria. Victoria is my home. We are the home of the Eureka Rebellion. It's in our spirit. So never give up, never surrender, and never say die. Alrighty. Alright, that just about brings us to the end of the show. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me just pop something up on the screen, if I may. Alrighty. If you would like to support the show, the link is in the description of this video. So you can head on over to mcjreport.com, click on memberships, and you can support the show from just $5 per month. That's right. So obviously a lot of time, effort, and production goes into MCJ Report. Any bit helps, but it's not just the show you're supporting. Of course, you're supporting what I do politically. See MCJ Report and Freedom Party of Victoria. It is a two-piece package. That's right. They are both joined at the hip. They're both interconnected. So you support MCJ Report, you support me. You support me in my capacity as the leader of Freedom Party of Victoria. That's right. So of course I'm active, engaged in meetings, on the phone to the team every single day of my life. That's right. Every single day I'm doing something for our cause. So support me so I can support you. Head on over to mcjreport.com and contribute from just $5 a month. The link is in the description of this video. If you go to the website, click on memberships, sign up, join the team, and let's go and get down to business. Now, there's one other thing that I wanted to talk about, actually. One other thing. And I'm just going to put it on the screen for you. If you just give me a moment. I'm just pulling it up right now. So don't go anywhere. This is actually really important. All right. I'm going to So Nick Patterson, I'm going to just enlarge this. Nick Patterson, many of you know who he is. He was assaulted very badly in 2021 by police, and he is suing the police for assault. And he has a very significant court date coming up on the 1st of June. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. So the theme is Take a Sickie for Nicky. So Nick Patterson, Thursday, 1st of June, for the crime of standing up for our rights. Nick was followed, targeted, beaten, arrested, jailed for 29 days, fined, prosecuted, stalked, harassed, bailed, silenced, and checked up on late at night by police. He was censored, banned, and permanently deleted on most social media. Follow Nick on Telegram, it says. I'm just going to read you here. But there's a hearing at the county court. So you can go there to support Nick. It's going to be on Thursday, the 1st of June. Nick's 15-day trial begins. So 1st of June, be there at the morning, 9 o'clock, 250 William Street, Melbourne. And so you can go there to support Nick Patterson in his fight against the police. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. A very, very worthy cause. And of course, we want to see justice reign supreme. I think Nick's got a really good case. I mean, it's pretty clear to me the police just brutally assaulted him. So anyway, I'm going to open up the chat here. There's Lunabelle, there's Paul, there's Brian. If anyone has any questions for me, then speak now or hold your peace until next Sunday. I'm happy to take a few questions, so go ahead and put some questions in the chat. I like to answer questions from you guys. There's Hajida there. How are you? Good to see you. There's Kilda Saint saying fantastic stuff. MCJ, how you going? Yeah, so I need to talk to my team. I want to do a live audience for MCJ Report 200. Will you come? Will you come? Tickets will be probably around $25. I want to do a proper setup for a live audience, similar background, desk, guests, and let's do something cool for MCJ Report 200. I want beer, champagne, and a good setup with lighting, so MCJ Report can be a live audience and not just me sitting in a room in my house in a homemade studio. So if you would attend something like that, then put it in the comments and let me know, because I'm very close to start planning, but I'd just like you to tell me that. Purple says you'll be there in spirit, but it'll be too far. Sharon says you'll be finding out if they had the 5th. There's Dana there. Dana or Dana? Probably Dana. How you going? Great to see you back. There's Harps there. Harps, we are long overdue, aren't we, for a bit of target practice, aren't we, my man? There's Bram. How you going? Good to see you. We also met in Frankston. Now, it's funny. Frankston seems to be the place where I meet people, both good people and bad people. Well, I've only met one bad person in Frankston, and that was Dan Andrews. And Mr. Premier, you know who I am, and it'll just be a matter of time before you are forced to confront Freedom Party of Victoria. Oh, and by the way, did you know that Freedom Party of Victoria is the number one enemy of the Daniel Andrews Labor government, as indicated by the fact that Labor put Freedom Party of Victoria dead last on every single how to vote card in the state election of 2022. How good is that? So the question is, why would you not want to be a part of the party who is the greatest enemy, the greatest threat to Daniel Andrews? That's us. It's not the Liberals. So go to freedomparty.net.au. And there's Melbourne, 21, Melbourne. You'll bring the champagne. Great, awesome. There's Brian there. You'll be there with your wife. That's all. Oh, thank you. That'd be great. Purple says, make sure it's easy for me to find. It's going to be in the city. There's Forge. Forge, you, my friend, are an absolute gentleman. You're an absolute legend. Dana says, and a cheese platter. Right. All right, so I'm gonna try and do this. Try and get some good guests. We'll set it up. I'll speak to my team. I'll speak to Lunabelle. There's Nathan there. I haven't been to Echuca for a long time. The last time I was in Echuca was when I was traveling around Victoria for my independent Senate campaign. So I'd love to come back to Echuca. I love Echuca. I used to go there as a kid for holidays. Where would MCJ Report 200 be? It will be within a 10-kilometre radius of the Melbourne CBD. Yeah. So I am south, like down south, but it'll be around the CBD because I want it to be accessible to as many people as possible. There's Chris Wong saying you would come. Hopefully you can. Marianne says, when we will stand up, no one will be left. Well, you know what? If we happen to be the last remaining defenders of Victoria, there's worse ways to go out, Getting taken out, standing up for something that you believe in, standing up for what's good, what's righteous, standing up for the innocent. If you get taken out doing that, that's actually not that bad. It's a lot better than a car accident. It's a lot better than dying somewhere alone. It all depends on your outlook on life and death. We're only on this earth for a very, very short period of time. So why not make the most out of it? And, if you're going to get taken out, then go out with a bang. How about that? There's Nathan saying you met me in the early days. Well, I'd have to meet you again. You see, over the past few years, I have literally met thousands of people, and my memory doesn't always recall when I see people another time. But of course, we are family now. So many of us have a shared experience, which is a bond that can really never be broken. And I'm very fortunate and humbled because I get stopped pretty regularly in the streets by people who either have seen me from my show or the protests. And it's always a very, very nice, humbling experience to meet someone like-minded because there's an instant connection, instant rapport. It's like when I meet people like that, I instantly understand where they're coming from. They understand where I'm coming from. It's a very special thing. And anyone who's experienced that, they know what I'm talking about. And there is the legendary Stephen Smith who ran for Freedom Party for the hostile seat of Melbourne. Stephen, it's a pleasure to see you in the MCJ Report chat. I hope that you're doing well. And I'd like to see you again soon, Stephen. I was thinking about you the other day on Anzac Day. Complete respect to you, and I hope that you're doing well. There's Anna Megas. You've tuned in late. Well, Anna, that is unacceptable, and we'll have to see if you can make it up to the MCJ Report family in the future. Of course, I'm just joking there, Anna. It's always a pleasure when you come on board, even if it's for the tail end of the show. Michelle says we are the 99%. Well, there's a lot more of us than what Daniel Andrews thinks. Daniel Andrews refers to us as fringe dwellers and that we're an angry minority. No, we're not. Believe me. Most rational people who are not groomers do not agree with what the councils are doing. They don't agree with it. It's Daniel Andrews. He is in the fringe minority of people who seem to think that those practices are okay. We are here defending the innocence of children, and Daniel Andrews is trying to stop us from doing that. What does that make him? All right, I'm not going to spell it out for you. I'm just going to ask you the question. Well, Nathan, I would very much like to go back to Echuca. I love the place. Dana's thinking away from the CBD. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe like not in the CBD, but maybe around St Kilda, South Melbourne, maybe somewhere like Richmond. No, that's all right, Anna. I was just joking around. You're up in Palm Cove. Palm Cove as in What's that? Is that 1 hour north of Cairns? You mean you happen to be in one of the most beautiful paradises anywhere in the world? And there is Andrew Philippopoulos, the man from Mill Park, the man, I'm going to embarrass him now, the man who scored the highest primary vote in Freedom Party of Victoria in Mill Park, the highest primary vote, 7%, insanely good and massively unheard of in a first election, but not just in any district, in a heavily Labor strong seat that's not strong anymore, thanks to the army that Andrew mobilised in Mill Park. Andrew, you're an absolute legend. We love you. And Andrew is a key example of somebody who is not discouraged by the state of affairs in Victoria. Andrew is with us on Freedom Party. He's on the management committee. He's in the fight, and he's not going away. And I tell you what, if you're heading out into battle, you'd consider yourself damn lucky to have someone like Andrew on your side. And that's just the truth. And there's Harpsy. What's going on? And there's Chris Wong. And Harps, I want to say, if my memory serves me correctly, the first time I met Harps was in Wodonga. So I'll put in the chat, have we met? Have you met me before? And if so, tell me where it was. And then Forge says, we love the small man Andrew. Well, there's one man who is small, very small in spirit, small in personality, small in courage, and that man's name is Daniel Andrews. But the Andrew Philippopoulos I know is larger than life. So there you go. And I know that you're just joking around there. Anyway, I'm just keeping an eye on the chat here, just monitoring what's going on. You can ask me any questions while I'm here. So Sharon says that I should do it at the MCG. All right. If we do MCJ Report at the MCG, then MCJ is going to need a mega investor. All right. Now, MCJ Report does not have that. So if you know someone, then email Morgan at mcjreport.com. Something tells me that's not going to be happening. MCJ Report is basically a community program that is funded through a series of small contributions from the MCJ Report community. Once again, mcjreport.com if you want to sign up for $5 a month and, keep the show ticking along. So ask me questions, especially if there's, and you know what? I'll say no question off limits. Doesn't necessarily mean I'll answer it, but go ahead and put it in the comments. All right, what else do we have here? Michelle says we spoke on the phone in 2020. Oh, I can't remember. I'm sorry. What did we speak about? I need to do MCJ live from Parliament steps. It'll basically just be a protest. So I've done many speeches on Parliament steps. Shane says do it at the Kelly. That would be a cool location. I love the Kelly. I've got my Kelly hat in the other room. There you go. Chadstone Starbucks. Wodonga, yep. We did, Harps, that's right. Yes, Melbourne, you don't need to jog my memory on you, Melbourne. I know exactly who you are. The OMD says the people with money are scared to support you. As I know some, and they believe in us, but play the game. Well, here's the thing, right? People who have money understand where they're coming from. A lot of them have worked hard, they've been smart, they've built up assets. They don't want to jeopardize what they've worked for. They don't want to put their name to something political because it could destabilize the security that they've built. So my advice to people like that who have done very well, that are supportive of this cause, that are supportive of the fight for freedom and Freedom Party of Victoria, you can still support and completely be in the distance without being connected to what we're doing. There's very much above board ways to do that. So go ahead and email morgan@freedomparty.net.au and we'll talk about it. You see, there needs to be a coalition. There's lots of people in this country. They've done very well over the years. They're multi-millionaires and they're scared. They're scared that if they rock the boat, the government will come after them. So my advice to these people is, don't rock the boat. Keep doing what you're doing, but financially support those who are fighting, who are willing to get in the trenches and take this battle to the front lines. And I know there's Liberal donors out there that are holding onto their wallets. That's right. They're like, no, we don't like this John Pizzuto guy. We don't like the Liberals turning into a blue offshoot of the Labor Party. So who are they going to support? Well, I say, Freedom Party Victoria, when we aim, right, we aim to shoot right between the eyes, and we make no apologies for holding the positions of which we do. We love our country. We believe in protecting the innocence of children. We want to bring our manufacturing back, and we are not scared to put a finger in the chest of anyone in any position of power doing the wrong thing. And that's why, of course, we had a tremendous outcome. That's why our members are amongst some of the most generous, humble, and wonderful people you could ever meet. And we are indeed moving forward strongly. Michelle says that we spoke about starting a political party. Well, I went ahead and did that one. So I can tick that one off the list, along with, other things that I've done in life. Nathan says that you met me in July, where we were outnumbered by police, and it was a hairy task coming from Echuca. Then when you guys visited Echuca before the federal election. Yeah, that sounds about right. And Nathan, I hope that you come back down. Nathan, I hope that you go to MCJ Report and sign up for the emails, right? So everyone make sure that you sign up. I'm just going to put that in the chat because, look, being outnumbered by police, that was like a weekly occurrence for me and so many other people for a good period of time. Saturday rolls around. All right, let's go to the city. Who here remembers protesting? How cool was that? You get to the city. There's a few choppers in the sky. Public order response shows up in their vehicles. The boys jump out. They're assembling their rifles. They're putting their body armor on. You're heading into that protest with no idea what's going to happen, just knowing that you are standing on the right side of history. So nothing but respect to everybody who protested against the COVID-19 tyranny. And although it was traumatic and terrible, we stood up for what was right. And that is priceless. Priceless. Risking your safety to stand up for what's right, you know what? Does not get better than that. Doesn't get better than that. And here's another interesting thing. Everyone who risked their neck, they'd all do it again. We'd all do it again. That's the funny thing about it, isn't it, Mr. Philippopoulos? I'm going to put the link to the newsletter in the chat, so that way we will stay in touch forever. Just make sure you open your emails and check your spam. That's right. For some reason, my email program has been sending highly valuable MCJ Report emails to people's spam, to people's junk folders. And it's not junk, but these are the things that you've got to deal with and overcome. Social media censorship, emails not arriving. It's crazy. All right, I'm putting it in the chat now. Thanks, Emma. Emma's asking, is there an update with Vicky Dudurian, who requires a heart transplant? No, unfortunately, there's not. I will be staying on top of that. Purple, no, I don't think I saw that one. Sharon says you protested on a 35-degree day and almost died. Well, I'm glad that you didn't die, because we need you here, Sharon. We need you supporting us. Also, you can support the show, right? mcjreport.com, and you can buy some merch, stickers, t-shirts. Melissa says you're worried about taking guns, and yeah, that's a funny one, isn't it? when I think it was 2021, and a lot of us were protesting, of course. I was protesting. I get a letter in the mail from LRD, right, the Licensing Regulation Division of Victoria Police, threatening to cancel my firearms license because supposedly due to my attendance at protests, there were rumours within LRD that Morgan Charles Jonas might not be a fit and proper person to be in possession of a firearms license. Now, I don't know exactly what the rationale is behind how they make these determinations and how they join these dots whereby there's no real connection, but I don't understand how opposing nonsensical, tyrannical laws somehow renders a civilian an irresponsible and unfit person. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like probably most of you, I've been a very law-abiding citizen my whole life, but as the saying goes, good people have a duty to disobey unfit and unfair laws. I think we all agree on that. About Billy, yeah. The protests during the unlawful lockdowns were unnerving. They were unnerving, but you're glad you went there. You know, once it's all said and done, you sit back and you say, you know what? I'm happy I did that. I'm happy that I took the risk. You know, no pain, no gain, no risk, no reward. That is the game of life, ladies and gentlemen. People who never take risks, well, they really run the ultimate risk of a boring life of not achieving anything and never showing courage. And there is no greater gift than the gift one receives after engaging in a courageous act. It's a beautiful feeling, and if you have experienced that feeling, then you have really lived through something that is just at the core of what it is to be alive. Let's see, I'm just going to read a bit more. OMD saying that somebody owns corporate boxes at the MCG. Well, let me know. I mean, if we can upgrade MCJ Report 200 to a really nice venue, then I'm all for it. I like it. I have no problem with nice venues. I like it a lot. But, you know, at the same time, we have to be realistic. Anyway, if you have any ideas or if you know anyone, venues would be great. Send it to admin@mcjreport.com. Admin@mcjreport.com. Any information. If you can help for MCJ Report 200. If you know someone with a venue. If you know someone that wants to help in other ways, all right? Other ways. Then email admin@mcjreport.com. I'm going to put that in the other chat as well. Nathan says it was a rush to arrive and people pull us from Warrnambool. That's crazy. Awesome stuff. Dana says that you loved your protesting days and yelling shame at you at the police. I think my favorite protest chant was "You serve us." For some reason, that just really resonated with me for some reason, because it's true, right? Where the public service is exactly, well, it's supposed to function exactly as its wording, a public service to the public. What is a service? It's something that helps us, something that protects us. It's something that's useful. It's not something that obliterates our rights. You know, it's not called the remove human rights from the public service, right? It's a public service. Anyway, that just about wraps it up for the show, ladies and gentlemen. Just a little bit of talking and some shenanigans. Thank you, Martart, for chipping in $5. You're a good man. And thank you so much. Alrighty, I'm going to wrap this up, ladies and gentlemen. Again, if you'd like to support the show by becoming a member of MCJ Report, the link is in the description of this video. From $5 a month, Morgan C. Jonas signing out. Have a lovely night. God bless you all. And let's go get after him. See you later.
Mm-hmm.